Hello and welcome to episode 57 of Infrastructure Matters. It's 3 of what's going to be our gang of 4 on the call with you today. We've got Keith Townsend and Camberley Bates. Hey guys, welcome to the show.
Morning.
Morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're at. I think everyone's
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, right, Keith?
somewhere, and it's Friday.
It's Friday and it's beer time somewhere. We're missing Diane Hinchcliffe. He's going to be a new regular on the show, but he can't be with us today. So you just got the 3 of us.
Yeah, and we just decided for everybody listening in that Diane is bringing in the class.
Yeah, we're rough around the edges. We'll admit that. We own it. We're all at an age where we can own that we're a little rough at the edges, and Diane definitely up levels the conversation.
Totally.
So this is the scrappy trio of the gang of 4, and Diane's going to bring the class going forward. Okay, that's good. I like it. So, busy docket this week. Camberley, I'll go to you first. Tech Field Day. You've been out there with AI Infrastructure Field Day. I got to sit in on a few of the sessions. Tell us a little bit about who was there, what you saw, what was interesting, and sort of get us away.
Well, we had this is AI Data Infrastructure Tech Field Day. Usually we've had...
Isn't that just fancy words for storage?
And for those who
really
not
now.
watching,
Okay.
Camberley really does have a really mean scowl going on.
Oh, yeah. And I just was on the end of it.
Yep, there we go. Okay, data infrastructure. So, and as we've talked about, it's like the world has moved. We're still in the drives and that kind of stuff, but the real meaningful stuff is stuff. There we go, technical term. As most people understand, is in this software capabilities. It's also into we had Pure Storage talking very, very much so in detail about their direct flash modules, which is they've got lots of smarts in these drives and that kind of that area. And there's other firms that have invested heavily in the tech, as we know, like NVIDIA. It's kind of important. The hardware is, but the software is very important too. So as we look at the infrastructure, and it also gets beyond storage, it's beyond that idea as I'm just sticking it into the drive kind of thing. I'm really working on this entire infrastructure, and how the key thing on AI and data infrastructure is it's as much about the speed and performance of that technology and the software that's on there as it is about the integration and the understanding of what we're doing with this. I mean, for instance, we had Solidigm, who is a solid state drive vendor, who did a phenomenal job there talking about the entire data pipeline, breaking down every piece of it. I mean, their charts were just amazing in terms of a learning process. I mean, the guys was a lot of fun. We had 2 kinds of folks there. We had traditional infrastructure people like Keith and I, and then we had the data engineers there. So we had this really interesting conversation that was going on. And let me tell you, the data engineers absolutely loved what Solidigm, a drive vendor, was presenting. If you can imagine.
I mean, the Google session that I got to sit in, the juxtaposition of the HPE session, the Solidigm session, the Google session, we were kind of going all the way up and down the stack. The Google piece was kind of coming at it from the AI kind of down. Yeah. Solidigm sounded like they were coming at it from the drives up. I mean, really holistic.
They actually came from here down. They started from what are the things that are going on? What does this look like? Because training, inference, RAG, archive, every one of those have got different requirements and different size amount of data that we're doing. And it's very, very different. So you got to break up that entire thing to say, how do I build this? Because not one thing fits.
Yeah, and
this a whole lot of kinds of technologies here.
And I think this field day highlights where infrastructure is going. Like you had this super abstracted layer that Google's talking about, and this infrastructure. That was a infrastructure field day, and then you're going all the way down. I was looking at some of the Solidigm, not just the front channel, the actual presentation, but some of the back channel conversation. And the data infrastructure folks, the data engineers were amazed at like how much Solidigm has given thought to these higher level abstractions. And I think that's representative of where infrastructure is going, where, this term infrastructure has become really gooey. You might talk something as low as, drive speeds and feeds, and there's something as high as what abstracted level services is infrastructure teams managing.
And into Google's thing, they presented their very broad range of options for storage, if you want to use that term. So everything from a parallel file system, they're involved with Deos, which came out of Intel in terms of an open system or open source parallel file system, just a regular file system, block, where all this fits. And so they've got this broad range of saying, and one of the things that we were looking for is like, okay, so, when you go in, an engineer or even a data infrastructure dude has got to be able to parse what pieces do I use where. HPE was a little bit more prescriptive in terms of what they're doing is bringing a stack to the world, which is a huge value. If someone just wants to roll something in, here you go. We've curated this open source work. We've curated the technology under it. We've made sure it's working together. We're allowing you to pick in pieces whatever you need from the open source space. So they've really, they've done a great job of that kind of offering that's out there. And of course, it's a GreenLake offering if you want to do that. So it was, and then we had Pure, which was fascinating because it was very technical. They got into some really technical items. And what we were trying to do is understand what the things that they have built into their direct flash modules and their networking behind it, and how that gives them an advantage in terms of speed, in terms of being able to feed the beast, the GPU, and in that area. So that's kind of where they went in talking about it. But it's just a really broad range, and I know I'm missing somebody here. Who did I miss?
Infinidat.
There we go. Infinidat.
Where did those fit in? I mean, maybe come to you, Keith. You were there. What was your?
I was not there, so I'm going to defer to, and I get to have.
I thought you were there.
No, I did. I was going to sneak by and go there, but we're in travel season, and this is my opportunity to take a week off from travel.
Oh, of course. Go do that.
Yeah. Bill Vicinis was there, and he was presenting on where they fit, both into talking about where they were working in terms of providing. So their big focus has been on, the traditional transactional high-end systems. And one of the things that we're thinking about is saying, okay, so most of what we think about here is file and object, unstructured data. But we have to marry, somewhere along the line, we have to bring in and marry the transactional data that's going to go through this. Vast, who we're going to talk about a little bit later, they talk about time series coming into that data and think about it this way: is if I've got an engine that I'm doing and I'm making some decisions, it's already been trained and everything else, but I've got new data coming in, or I want to use new transactional data that's going on, whatever that is. Maybe it's the banking system, or maybe it's retail or whatever, but I need to feed that in real time, more than likely, to augment my knowledge base that I've created. And that's that RAG. I'm augmenting my knowledge base with current absolute new data. How do we do that? And those are challenges. Those are really big challenges because we got data in different places. And how does that feed into this process? So we're just at the cusp of this industry. And I think as delegates, we walked away from there going, wow, there's a lot to be done. There's a huge amount of collaboration between the data engineers and the infrastructure people to communicate, because we speak very different languages.
Yeah. Well, Camberley, this reminds me, I don't know how we missed this because we did talk about it last week. I think it was in between shows. The MLPF results came out.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how does this relate to, as we're bridging the conversation between the field day event and what we're talking about fast, how does the MLPF results and the industry, this is a first, this is 1.0, how the industry is starting to look at storage performance and its impact on AI?
So MLPerf Storage 1.0 came out last week, and I'm going to say upfront, I have not spent the time on it, although our guys over in Signal 6.5 have buried themselves into it and looked at it. And I have not, I've been on the road, so I have not had a chance to kind of get into what the pieces that are first out there. So this is 1.0 that they brought out. And I'm not exactly sure what this is actually reporting, because there's a lot of claims out there. I'm number one, I'm number one, I'm number one. So there's a lot of slices.
It's still the storage industry.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to take a look at it. But I think I'm sure what they're doing is they're looking at everything from your training to the RAG to the whatever. And how do you, as I said, this is not one type of workload. This is 5 or 6 workloads that are in that. And then there's more that we don't know that's going to be needed in order to work through there. And now we haven't even started talking about classification and PII stuff. So that's an entirely different, but that's kind of what MLPerf is trying to do from a storage standpoint.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. I haven't dived into it. I still need to read the Signal 65 report, but this is something that we've been trying to get our storage customers to pay attention to and help us and collaborate with us to see the impact, especially on RAG, because I think most people are not doing training, obviously, but almost everyone is going to do some level of inferencing in RAG. And what is the impact of storage performance in subsystems and services on RAG, which is probably a good segue to, what VAST is doing.
Yep.
Yeah, let's go there. Keeping us rolling along. VAST made some big announcements. I wasn't involved in those, but I know you guys were. What did they announce? Why is it significant? Tell me more.
Yep.
Yeah, the storage is still Camberley's. If you ask a virtualization question, I'm all over it. People identify me as a
he's handing it to me.
Virtualization, Keith
Townsend. Yes.
So what they were doing, first of all, the conference is called Cosmos, but there's also what Cosmos is what they've created with Cosmos is a community of technology companies to come together, and understanding that this is not a one system kind of environment, but we'll take a village, if you will, on bringing this to market. So that's what Cosmos is all about. And the usual suspects were very involved in that, everything from the vendors to the hardware, software, and partners like WWT. But the big piece of this is coming out with the data engine that they're doing, which is what they've already done is they've got this, they've got the data storage, the base level data storage. They've been working on the vector database capability across the entire data storage, which is used for RAG. And now what they've added in there is the ability to bring in NIMS, which is capability coming from NVIDIA, to be able to iterate on the RAG systems, et cetera, and push that out there. There's not a huge amount of detail on it because they're not shipping it until they say they're GAing, what they say they're shipping in first half. And they've also talked about first quarter. So somewhere along in there, we're going to see that, and at that time is when we're going to get a whole lot more of the details of what they're doing. But essentially, their vision there is to be able to, and the other piece they're doing is they're bringing in time series data, which is significant, as I was just talking about. How do you bring time series data, real time, into the RAG system to update and be able to produce out? So that entire platform, their vision is that here is one platform you can use that will streamline the entire process of what you have. So the question is, you've got everything there. You've got the ability to do block. You've got the ability to do file. You've got the ability to do object. Bring all that stuff into your vector database or the environment that you need to do, or your data warehouse environment. Process all that and spit out the answer on the backside. So that's where they're at, and all within privacy governance that you need to have well integrated into NVIDIA, who's their key partner here. The question then, the big questions that we've had already is, will customers, their data is already on all these other systems. Are they going to bring in a brand new system and do that? And the answer coming back from many people we've talked to already is maybe. And the reason being is because this is a new application or a new environment. And so they are setting up new areas. For instance, we hear about Dell talking about this AI factory. What they're talking about is that, what we've done in transactions is this much. What you're going to do on AI analysis and data is going to be, 10 times bigger, 20 times bigger. So yes.
10 to 20 times more storage required?
I don't know. NVIDIA. No. Processors.
Oh, okay.
Primarily processors.
I was going to say, that sounds like a campaign to sell more disk and flash.
And if we look back at kind of, what we've done traditionally in enterprise IT, there's opportunity here for vendors, because when I was at my last assignment as a enterprise architect, I had what was called VMAX back then, which is now, whatever, the Power Max, which is, the mainframe, as we like to call it, the mainframe of storage. We had 3 of them supporting one app, SAP. So SAP was important enough to support 3 Power Maxes, 2 for production, 1 for DR. And the rest of the infrastructure ran on Dell's lower level storage. So if the application brings enough business value and there is uptime and performance, and there's a return on that investment, enterprises will spend the money on it. What's very uncertain, it came across in the Cosmo partnership, is that we really don't know what these applications are going to look like in the future. We're trying to hedge our bets. And, there's, partners in this Cosmos from Supermicro to Equinix to WWT, Deloitte. What's missing is like the big cloud providers, right? There's this argument, especially for AI, that this is going to be primarily an on-premises workload, that the QTXs, the Equinix of the world will be hosting these workloads, and we'll have to do a lot of Lego block putting together initially. And it's important for these types of partnerships to basically show enterprises the way, because this is PhD level stuff right now, especially you mentioned the time series database, the time series data stuff. I've just read a huge research paper on whether or not you should try and rapidly retrain versus use RAG. We just don't know.
So, fantastic discussion. A lot of storage. Camberley, you've been talking a lot. Or should I say data infrastructure? Sorry, I shouldn't say storage. Couple of big things for me this week that I saw. System of record outage for Bank of America on Wednesday. Hit the press. Very, very few details. I went digging, spent a couple of hours going down the rabbit hole. Really hard to find what this was. Spent some time with a couple of the IBM guys last night and there's a massive mainframe infrastructure that is the system of record at Bank of America. And I kind of said, did you guys break things on Wednesday? And there was no kind of reaction from those guys. I think that was a cyber attack, and that's not why why there was no sort of details that I could find. Typically, if a bank's having cyber issues, they won't say anything. If they're having system uptime and availability issues because they broke something, they're a bit more transparent. So I don't want to fuel any conspiracies, but I spent a fair bunch of time looking at this. I kind of track outages and track downtime and this type of stuff. It's kind of my bailiwick. Really not very many details out there. I don't know, Keith, whether you saw this one come across your radar this week.
I did see it come across my radar, and it is exceptionally quiet for a bank outage. It's one of the world's largest banks. You typically get some pretty transparent things. People get nervous when the banking system has problems, and someone that's frankly too big to fail, the size of this bank, we do have some pretty transparent announcements. There's some system failure or whatever, some high level explanation. I expect that one way or another we will find out what happened, because this isn't some mid-sized bank I'm in the Midwest, so I can pick on us Midwesterners. It's not a mid-sized bank in the Midwest that only a handful of folks use. It's not, I'll use a defunct name. It's not Harris Bank of Chicago. This is, a proper global player.
Something like 70 million customers. I mean, there was literally I must have read 10 or 15 different articles, then went digging from there, didn't find any detail.
So there was one, and the only article I saw was a report that some people had their balances zeroed out. Was there any truth to that?
Yeah, so, I mean, people going in via their mobile app, looking at their balances. Their credit card balance was intact, interestingly enough. It's always the same,
that's a redundant system.
Nobody ever catches a break in these outages. I mean, all of this is FDIC insured. Your money's not gone. Don't create a run on the bank. Don't go to the teller and get all your cash out because you think your money's disappeared. That's not what happened. This will just be some type of system. They'll recover. As we said, there'll be protected copies of the data. There'll be, your money's still there, but it was just really interesting that some of those balances were zeroed out when people were looking at their accounts, which is obviously stressful, right?
Yeah, that would mean I made $800. Yeah,
I mean, my $50 wouldn't be there, and I'd be really stressed about it. I mean, Camberley maybe has got a bit more money than you and I, Keith, but
I'm wanting to go up and look at my account right now because I happen to be with Merrill Lynch and Bank of America. So there we go.
So that one broke. I'm going to continue to dig, but it doesn't to me sound like a system of record outage. It sounds to me like there was a cyber attack. I'm putting 2 and 2 together there. I could be making 4. I could be making 48, but that's what I'm saying based on what I was able to find out.
So I'll be really interested to hear if it was and how they caught it and what did it and what systems did do this. I'm sure we may not be able to report on it someday, but it could be interesting.
I will keep digging. The other big news story was an OCI region announcement in Malaysia, so Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. I've been tracking. I've got a research note that's coming out on this that's in the system that should publish either today or early next week. Another big region from Oracle. I think I see a really good trajectory from those guys around sovereign cloud. I think they get that data sovereignty is really important in various markets. Obviously, with the database background that they've got, those are typically...
Data infrastructure matters, or is it storage that matters?
Well, I think based on this podcast, it's storage matters, right? We should just rename the podcast. But no, I mean, I think given their background around database, where they are, they get that those system of records are going to be very often in Oracle, and they're going to need to be on-prem. So lots of details here. I think it was 7.8 billion, which is significant. Normally, these are in the $1 billion range, so this is a biggie. This is like the Amazon one in the UK that I reported recently. So we're seeing some very big investments that these hyperscalers are having to make into sovereign cloud deployments. So I think kind of continues on a trend I've been tracking all this year.
And Oracle is unique with the cloud providers. They're, kind of differentiators that when they bring on a region, they make the marketing claim that every service is available. So it's not, this is a region with, these core set of services. If you're using Oracle Cloud VMware service, it should be available day one in this new region in Malaysia. So it is that $7 billion number is a big deal. And it's a big deal that they're bringing up a new region and a new part of the world for them and the services that comes along with it.
The other thing for me, and I think Oracle's able to make their regions and their cloud instances with what they're doing with Alloy and Cloud at Customer, they can go a lot smaller with some of these regions. This one's a big one, 7.8 billion. You know, that's up there. That's up there as big as any of the ones I've seen. But they're also going to, I think I took away from Cloud World that it's down to as small as 3 racks. You know, so if you've got, and you want to connect to the Cloud at Customer, the Alloy, the Exadata Cloud at Customer, if you want to connect and create that sort of small region, you can connect that infrastructure back in. What they did and announced at Cloud World with putting OCI into AWS to complete the set and now have AWS, Google, and Azure. There's some really good stuff that Oracle's doing here with its sort of, I don't want to call it private cloud, but sort of data sovereignty and how that connects into other clouds, I think.
Yeah, I think the new term is exactly that, sovereign cloud. This ability to take these 3 racks, put them in an Equinix data center next to your vast data storage, blah, 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 and the whole architecture picture, and have this data locality capability with these cloud services interacting with your own data within your own region.
Yeah. And that's vital for enterprises that operate locally, government agencies, defense organizations. There's a whole raft of people that are really paranoid about where their data sits and the regulatory and legal framework that sits around it. So I think good strategy that's Oracle's on, 7.8 billion, again, big amount of money at the top end of where I've seen these. So fascinating announcement. I've got more details coming out in the research note. So with 3 of us this week, we're getting up on to half an hour. Anything else from you both before we wrap?
No, this has been I've learned a lot because now I don't have to go back and watch all the AI DI videos. Actually, I'm going to feed it into I'm going to do an experiment. I'm going to feed it into Notebook LM and see if Notebook LM can just replace the 3 of us. Won't replace Nyan, but replace the 3 of us on Giving News.
We're going to create avatars and just completely get the AI to do it, Keith? Is that what the plan is?
So our compatriot David Nicholson is feeding all his sarcasm into something he's calling Dave Bot 9000.
Oh, jeez.
And he's going to have it start writing his...
Well, good. I don't know if any AI can quite capture Dave's snark yet. So he need to feed it an awful lot of data.
Snark as a service?
Yes.
Is that what we're going to get?
Snark as a service. There we go.
Yeah.
It's a SaaS. Okay.
Well, fantastic. You've been listening to episode 57 of Infrastructure Matters. We're here every week to bring you the breaking news, what's been going on in the week of infrastructure and how that matters and why you should care. Please click and subscribe and do all those things. Share with all your friends so that we can grow the audience here. And we'll see you next week. Thank you very much for watching.